In the past year or so, I've kind of been feeling like the internet is intentionally pinning men and women against each other, and specifically heterosexual men and women when it comes to dating. And if you're not heterosexual and you're not dating, still stay tuned because you literally cannot make this shit up. I try my best to flood my algorithm with positivity, informative things, educational things, but every blue moon, some bullshit slips through the cracks. And by bullshit, I mean
you to get him to spend his money on you.
When you fall in love with a woman, you become blinded and you become more emotionally driven, and that's not what you want to be with a woman. My fucking friends, period. All right? Some of you motherfuckers need to get a fucking spine, you jellyfish SpongeBob.
But your nails and toes aren't done.
I just want a man with a higher vocabulary, which you don't have.
It's no secret that people online say shocking and controversial things to get attention and to get traction to whatever it is that they do, whether it be their business or their Instagram, whatever it is. Everybody is trying to be an influencer these days, whatever it is that they're doing. And I'm able to accept these things for what they are, which I can only assume. From my perspective, I view it as a form of entertainment. Some people like watching that type of thing, and that's like perfectly fine. Go off. I think that what I find most alarming is the response to this type of content. And I do my absolute best to understand groups that I'm not specifically a part of and understand different perspectives in the world that are outside of mine. So, you know, there are things that intrigue me. There are things that I do want to learn about and that I do want to know. And I understand that there are bad people, you know, and then there are people that are just confused and misguided. And you know, I love to differentiate between the two. So content like Fresh and Fit, Kevin Samuels, RIP, and what is it? I don't know her name specifically, and I feel so bad. It's a sprinkle lady. I don't agree with everything that she says, I'm being honest, but I like the way that she talks. Like her mannerisms, not like the advice and shit that she gives. And I also feel like, ironically enough, the Balloon Pop show is also problematic in that way, or problematic in the way of how men and women interact when dating. Now that the Balloon Pop show doesn't really count, I feel, because it's not really somebody expressing their thoughts and opinions on anything. It's more so, like I said, a dating show. There have been occasions where there have been men on the show and women on the show who've admitted to saying offensive things to the people that they're interacting with on the dating show for attention, and it really shows. Like some of the clips that I've seen, it's like, ain't no way. Like there's no way that somebody actually thinks this way. It's very strange for me. So I'm like, some of it is, I feel, is trolling, and then I feel like some of it is also just somebody being very dense. So in terms of content like Fresh and Fit and Kevin Samuels, I feel that men and women coming together and discussing issues that they have when dating could be such a beautiful thing and such an informative thing and such a learning experience for both parties involved. However, that isn't necessarily the case. So Fresh and Fit, for example, they'll have women on the show, but it's like specifically the type of women that they have on there. And it's no shade to the women on there. Like I've seen some where it's like majority of the time it's women that don't know, and I say this respectfully, how to articulate what it is that they're actually trying to say. And I feel like a lot of people have opinions on things. They don't know why they have those opinions. They can't explain why they have those opinions. And I think it doesn't make for a good like actual back and forth debate or conversation about particular topics. And that's like I said, entertainment value. However, I do think that by doing that, they're kind of pushing this agenda that feels like, or not even feels like, it's like they've said it multiple times on the shows, or at least the clips that I've seen. Because I'll be honest, I didn't lock in 100%, and I will say, because I wasn't trying to ruin my algorithm to that extent, like the things, like it's like the same thing. It goes on both ends, where I feel like I see some of these clips and it's like the man will be communicating something that's valid, and then it'll go completely left. I'll give you an example in a minute, but basically I say that to say, it's like they try to push this thing about women being the problem, and I don't think it's women in general that's the problem. I don't think it's men in general that's the problem. I think like if we communicate, I think communication is the problem. Communication is the issue in all of this shit. For example, I ran into a video of Kevin Samuels on Instagram, and obviously it's an old video because, you know, he has passed, but he was basically saying how men should not cry in front of their girlfriend and how they shouldn't be vulnerable in front of their woman in general. So then I go to the comment section, of course, because I'm like, is this a thing? Because I know me, and I know I am not expecting to date a fucking warrior. Like, if I'm dating somebody, I understand that I'm dating a person, and you know, people feel shit and it's okay to cry. So I go to the comment section, and of course, there are women that are like, that's just not true, or that doesn't apply to all women. And you have men in the comment section, of course, expressing their thoughts on it as well, which is great. Conversation going, love that. So with the women expressing their thoughts on it, there are literal men replying to these women, calling them liars. And I'm like, I think that's the part that confuses me the most. I love that there are men that are expressing their experiences and talking about this type of thing. I think that that's great because, like I said, I do believe that the patriarchy hurts everybody. And, you know, it does benefit some men, but it also hurts some men as well. And I feel emotional expression is one of the ways that it hurts men. So I do think that it is important for us to know this type of thing, especially specifically with the person that we are committed to or that we're dating. And basically, these men, though, were convinced that all women were like their bad experience, and that's where you kind of lose me in the conversation. And that's where I feel like these types of shows can be dangerous and problematic, because what the fuck, huh? Like, that's what confused me the most, because it's like, it's completely valid and completely understandable for somebody to have a bad experience with a previous partner and for them to like not feel comfortable being that way in their next relationship. That's a general trauma response. But to make it seem like everybody is that way, or everybody that you're gonna date is gonna make you feel like shit for being a human, is kind of bad. It's like, it's just not good. And I think because the tone behind it is, it's like a resentment. Like, why are you calling a random person on the internet a liar for expressing their opinion? Like, it's perfectly normal for that to be the dynamic in a relationship where both parties can be vulnerable regardless of their gender. That's where that's where it like goes over my head, and I'm like, I can't listen to this, and why I have my algorithm set the way that it is. What I can do is, when you're being presented with a different perspective, it's now impossible and unbelievable. And I understand it's probably also a trauma response for people to accept negative. It's a lot easier for people to accept negative everything as opposed to positive anything. And I understand that as well, but like I said, it's not in a way that's like, hey, I'm insecure about this, but it's in a way where it's like, women are awful and evil and they expect this is this and it's all of them. And it's like, where is this coming from? Like, why do we think that? Because for such a long time, I literally thought that it was like men speaking generally. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I'll have a friend that's like in a happy, healthy relationship. He treats her like a fucking queen. We'll watch a movie and the guy will cheat in the movie. These men ain't shit. And I know, and she knows that she obviously doesn't mean all men. We're just keying talking about this particular man on the TV. So I feel like that has been my thought process of, oh, like maybe they mean it that way. But you go to this comment section and it's literally flooded with, no, they're all like this. Like, huh? I don't understand it. And I think that's where I have a hard time trying to understand and trying to listen. There was this lady that I seen posting, and this one I think I actually saved, so I'll try to clip it somewhere. But this lady was talking about how
I went to a singles event, and when I got there, it was literally 90% women. And I was like, I'm gonna go now.
And the comment section, weird as fuck yet again. There's this one dude, and he was like,
this is what y'all wanted though, right? Like, this is y'all asked for men to leave y'all alone, and so now we're leaving you alone, so now you gotta live with it.
Like, he really thought he ate. And I could understand if the dude knew this girl personally and she was like a complete dick to him and told him like some awful things. I could understand in that instance, like, this is what you specifically said. But it was like a random post, a random woman on the internet. And on top of that, what did he say that was crazy too? He was like, y'all literally told us that you don't want us talking to you, walking up to you, breathing your air. I'm like, this is why I feel like people, or certain people, have their algorithm set up where they only see certain shit. And I don't know if it's because they don't have that many platonic relationships, or they are more online than they are interacting with people out in the real world, where they think that this shit is real, to where that's the thought process. I don't know. I can't explain it to you. That's such a weird way to perceive what she said at all, because obviously she wants to be around men. If she went to a mix and mingle to meet men, like, he probably did see some crazy shit online, or probably did see a woman saying men shouldn't even be alive, they all need to be they all need to be destroyed. So probably seen something crazy like that and then ran with it, because it's like, how on earth can you apply that to every woman that you see? Like, it honestly baffles me. Why are you coming at this random person online who has done nothing to you? You have no context of what kind of person this is. She could be, admittedly, she could be an asshole, or she could be a really dope person, but for you to make that assumption and then respond in a way like she's a bad person off top is crazy. After that video, I did more research just about men and women and emotions and all of that good jazz. It's definitely outdated because we definitely have a lot more variety going on, but maybe I'll include the article, I don't know. But I also did research on men crying and being vulnerable around women, because like I said, I'm genuinely interested in how people feel, or other groups outside of myself feel, in their day-to-day and how they move around, especially in relationships. Given that I'm heterosexual, unfortunately, every day I'm like, please turn me gay. I wish the gay propaganda was real, because sometimes the hetero life is a little ghetto. I'm digressing. So I find a Fresh and Fit video, and there's two women, and forgive me, I don't know their names. I just know them as Fresh and Fit. So basically, they're talking. It's like 4 people, 2 ladies, Fresh and Fit, and then there's a host kind of like monitoring the situation. They're Fresh and Fit, of course, are like, don't cry in front of women. The women on there, they're not even talking about being in a relationship. They're just like, don't be vulnerable in front of women. You can't be vulnerable in front of a woman. You can't be vulnerable, can't cry. He's like, innately, like, in their brains, they're not gonna like view you right after that, and they're not gonna want to have sex with you anymore. And I'm like, okay, like, I feel like what they're trying to communicate is that they've had a bad experience being vulnerable in front of a woman. And for real, in my heart of hearts, that is so unfortunate, and I'm so sorry about that. But I feel it's better, or not better, I feel like, 1, it's more healing, and 2, just logical and more accurate to acknowledge that maybe you weren't with somebody that was emotionally intelligent, and that there are people and women that exist that don't have the same thought process as your previous situation that has you fucked up. And like I said, I get it. I get the trauma response, but my goodness, I get this response of, I'm never doing that with anybody again. I get that. But like, the resentment and the tone behind it feels very much so, this is what it is. This is how all women are, and I hate them for it, which is so unreasonable. And it's like, the women that were on the show too were expressing like, no, like, it's normal for people to cry. It's normal for people in general to cry. And they just weren't really having it. It's like they were able to debate them down to say like, okay, 80% of women don't like their boyfriend to cry or their men to cry. Like, they were able to talk it down enough to where Fresh and Fit did say, okay, it's not all women. And this was like a more cordial conversation that I've seen them had. This is a more cordial conversation that I've seen them have in like the videos and stuff that I've watched to prepare for this video. And it's like, I can respect that. And it's like, I do feel like these are what these conversations should look like. Maybe not so much so shutting them down every time they say it's okay for a man to cry. Like, I feel like if I seen a man cry and it was a known fact that men don't have tear ducts, I would be freaked out. But it's like, we all got them. It's natural and normal for people to cry. I don't understand. And so of course I go to the comment section, and it's like I said, it's like men will have one bad experience. And I say men because like, this is the topic that we're talking about. I date men, so this is how I'm viewing it. Because the girly pops I know, like, I've seen a girl get their heart broken time and time and again and still have enough love to give to their next partner. Like, yeah, they might be a little guarded, but it's not reflected in a way where they hate their partner. It's reflected in a way that's kind of like, okay, like, I'm a little timid, I'm a little shy girl. Like, I've seen that. But when men talk about it, it's like literally all it takes is like 1, 2, 3 times. I don't know how many times. Like, this one dude was talking about how he was married and cried in front of his wife, and she divorced him, which I don't want to say that's debatable. That is your experience. But I'm like, is that what caused the divorce? Like, you cried in front of her, and then that same night she was like, I'm out. And I did see comments where men were saying that they were crying in front of their girlfriend and their girlfriend called them weak and was just see, like that stuff, I feel, not to say it's more believable, but I feel like that's like the math is math and it adds up a lot more. And basically, the vibe, not even the vibe, like verbatim, people were saying you can't be vulnerable in front of women. They'll use it against you, and they're monsters and like things like that. Which it's like, bro, like I said, it's like there's different types of trauma responses, and I'm the type of person where if somebody has done me wrong in a relationship, I don't carry it to me in my next relationship with the vibe of or with the intention of treating them like they've already done me wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna view them and be like, he's gonna use this against me. Like, no, I expect very well to be able to be vulnerable with my partner regardless of how my last relationship went or any relationship prior to them. Like, duh. And there was a comment that did say that, and I was like, thank you, where and I'll try to find it and put it somewhere, but they were basically saying like, I'm gonna be vulnerable with my partner, period. And that's how, in my opinion, how it should be. And I think like if that's something that you're not comfortable with and that's something that you want to work towards, that's valid and that's fine. If it's something that you don't want to work towards, like, it is what it is. Like, we kind of got to move at our own pace. But treating your partner like they're going to have you fucked up is you probably shouldn't be dating. And I feel that goes for everybody, woman, man alike. If you in your heart of hearts are scared, like it's one thing to be scared and it's one thing to be accusatory, it's one thing to be aggressive about it, and it's one thing to be paranoid. Even like people that are like overly paranoid, even if it's coming from a place of insecurity and not necessarily accusation, it can still be harmful to the relationship and the situation. So yeah, just don't do that. And it's like I can count on my hand how many times a man has cried in front of me. One time I went to the movies with a homeboy, and we went to see Coco, and we got to the end of the movie, and I look over, he's crying because he misses Abuela, and then I was like, fuck, I miss mine too, and now we were just both in there crying. I didn't view him in the moment or at all as anything other than my friend who was sad and like, you know what I mean, feeling emotional about something. I didn't view him as less of a man either. I was like, nothing's gonna change that. You're a dude. Even in relationships, I've had men cry in front of me or my partner cry in front of me, and I'm just like, fuck, how do I fix this? What do I do? Let me support you in this. And it wouldn't be long after for them to get upset that they cried in front of me and be like,
man, like I'm a man, I'm not supposed to.
I'm like, if you don't rest your head in this ample bosom and tell me what the fuck is going on with you, what I don't understand is like people treating their partner in a way where it's like, I already know how you are. Like, not already know how you are. Like, if you know your partner and you know that they're not going to go for that, you're probably with the wrong person, unless, you feel that the positive outweighs the negative, and the negative being that you can't be vulnerable around them. Like, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. I'm not going to argue with you on that. But if you're just already making assumptions that your partner is going to have you messed up, if your partner is going to hurt you, it's not going to work. It isn't gonna work. I don't know what else to say. And you have to, unfortunately, with things like trust, like you kind of have to just like not fall head first into it, but it's like both parties have to work to build that, and both parties have to work to say, hey, I'm gonna show you that you can trust me, but in doing so, you kind of you have to trust me. You got to give me some leeway somewhere. You have to let me be able to show you. It's all about, I feel like, communication and emotional intelligence, where if you have ever been with a partner, guy, girl, they, them, and you had a vulnerable moment with them and they made you feel like shit, I'm actually so sorry for that. And it's such a crazy thing because it's like, damn, without the obligation of having to get married and be in a relationship, because I don't know if you know, but there was a point where women could not have their own bank account, and I don't know what country that you're from, so if I think that's just America. Surprise, America. And I know it's different for different cultures too, but I think it was like 1973. Think how old your parents are right now, or your grandparents, and ask yourself why their relationship lasted so long. But where women couldn't have their own bank accounts until 1973. Marriage was based off of obligation and having to depend on a relationship in order to be able to have some form of income, to be able to have, I guess, partially your own shit. What could be such a beautiful thing? Well, we're in a world, or we're in a time where women aren't relying on men anymore, and some women are, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But we're in a world where not all women are relying on men, and people can just be together because they love each other and not out of obligation. And this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. These are the topics that we're discussing. I think overall, everybody could just do better at communicating and being more compassionate and understanding of the person that they're with. And because I didn't realize either, like in doing research and stuff too, there are women that don't believe that men like experience trauma and that men can be mentally, what is the word I'm trying to use? You know, can be depressed and all of those things, especially within the Black community. Like having to convince like certain older people, older Black people, that like depression exists and that there are things that exist in our minds that make living, which that was going to sound really dark, but like, you know what I mean? Where certain conversations, therapy, I'm more of a holistic girly, so I don't know about medications and I don't know anything about that. Ironically enough, my sister's a pharmacist. But there are things that can help with making things just feel a lot better and making things feel easier and making the world seem less scary. And like I have enough platonic male friends to know like this isn't the norm for all men, and I've gone on dates with enough nice dudes and friendly dudes and people that are on chill, and I've also had my shitty experiences too, this being one of them. So it's late, I'm meeting some friends at the bar, I'm running late as per always, and I have to park off yonder because I'm running late. It's like a block or two, nothing too crazy. So I park my car, I'm walking towards the bar, and and let me give you the vibes first. It's dark, it's sketchy, and I watch a lot of true crime. So now we're kind of, you get what I'm picking up. Anybody could run up on me, man, woman, child, and I will look at them like, what's going on? Like, what's happening here? So just keep that in mind. So basically, I'm walking and a car pulls up beside me, and there's two dudes in the car. One's driving, the other is quite literally hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, so basically he's like, you know, catcalling, and I kind of give him a little like, like, you know, one of these, just because I can be a social butterfly, and I can also be awkward as fuck. It just depends on what day that you catch me. He could have easily caught me on a good day during broad daylight, and I would have been like, you, but like I said, it was dark, sketchy, and I watch a lot of true crime. So I don't know if the response wasn't what he wanted, but when I tell you, he started going in on me, and I was just like, bro, like, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. And then it was like literally as his friend was driving off, like still yelling out of the fucking window, some crazy ass shit. Or it's like your normal insults. I didn't want your number anyways, you ugly ass bitch. I think that looking at the psychology of it, which I don't know. I took a psychology class in college. I don't know all about it, but being what I've gathered from my little research session and when I gathered off of the internet, it could very well be that he was experiencing a vulnerable emotion, or perceived vulnerable emotion, which possibly for him was rejection, which really it was fear that I was feeling. The intent wasn't rejection. The intent was, God, let me make it here alive. Why is he popping out his window? Like, it was giving, basically, you know what I mean? I don't know you. And it could have very well been a creepy little kid popping his head out the window, and I would have still been like, what the fuck? But I digress. One thing to not realize, that a situation could be disarming for somebody else and maybe a little uncomfortable for somebody else. Could have perceived that as me rejecting him. But even so, even experiencing the vulnerability of rejection, which, like I said, it wasn't technically rejection. It didn't result in rejection, yes, but the intention wasn't that. It was just, like I said, I'm just trying to get where I gotta go. The thought process could have been, hey, that might have been a little cringe for him, but instead of responding in a way where it's like, shame on himself, or outward shame on himself, or maybe he tucked back in the car and was like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. Like, oh my gosh, she didn't even look up at me. Like, this is like embarrassing for me. Instead of it being like that, I'm not saying he should be down on himself either. Equally valid response would just be like, you can't get them all, and moving the fuck on. His feelings either way are valid. If in the moment he felt like he was experiencing rejection, that's a valid feeling to have. In the moment maybe he felt like a little shame towards himself, that is a valid feeling to have. It's just how, and there's a rare occasion where I feel that somebody's feelings are invalid. It's how they choose to handle those emotions that makes it a problem. And his response was definitely fucking weird, huh? Freaked me out even more. I was like, damn, I made him mad. Which isn't funny, because there are women that like legit get hurt. I should add too that there have been experiences that I've had with men like out like in the bar scene and stuff that have been very pleasant, where it's like, I'm like, great. Like, I feel like men are I don't want to say becoming conscious, but are becoming more aware, because his intentions could have been totally chill. But also people, like I said, I watch a lot of true crime. It could be anybody. Like, and I don't know you, sir. Like, it could be anybody that is your demise. So, yeah. And I think men are learning, because like I said, like, I've had really good experiences where I was dancing in a club one time and this dude was like, you want to dance with me or no? Like, it's fine if you say no. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, no, not because like I don't think you're cool or whatever, but just because I don't know what it is about me. When I dance with other people, immediately lose my rhythm. Immediately the rhythm has left the chat. But yes, I say that to say not all, it doesn't have to be this crazy thing. It's like literally about just communicating and accepting and acknowledging there are bad people out there. There are bad women, bad men, there's bad people out there, but you can't let that be your villain origin story. You can't allow for that to be your villain origin story, because how unfair would that be to the person that you know, what if you find your person but you're too busy being an asshole to realize that they're a gem and that they're amazing? But you know, that's why I think it's like important to heal first before dating. Also is helpful to touch grass, because I know like being online, if you're constantly online and you're seeing so much where it's like, ain't no way. Like, I had a dude friend and he was saying that all he was seeing on his timeline was women talking shit about men. And it's like, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm like, it's gonna happen, but don't be so naive to think that there aren't bad people out there, but also don't be even more naive to think that there aren't any good people out there. And as far as 50-50 goes too, I just feel like after a certain age, after a certain point, men need to know how to cook, clean, take care of themselves, and provide for themselves financially. And women need to know how to cook, clean, take care of themselves, and provide for themselves financially. Like, and whatever happens after that is perfectly fine. And like I said, it's a matter of preference. If you can meet somebody that you trust to handle your finances and you're dependent on them for your finances, go off. I think that that's great. I know it's common in most cultures, and I have seen situations where the wife is happy, the husband's happy, it's a good dynamic, and that's what works for them. And that's why I say it's more of a personal preference than anything else. So the way that some men are getting defensive about women not wanting to go 50-50 is kind of crazy to me. And the way that some women are upset that men want to go 50-50 is kind of crazy to me, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, okay, you've established that that's not for you, so shut the fuck up and move on about it. I kind of hate that it's this whole thing where it's like, he's not a man if he doesn't pay all my bills, and she's not a woman if this is that and the third, and why does she deserve for me to pay for all her stuff? And it's like, it's not about that. It's literally about whatever you prefer as an individual and in your relationships. And like I said, personally, I'm not with the whole relying on somebody to take care of me financially, for a number of reasons. But I just like having my own shit. I just like having my own shit. I like being able to pay for my own things. I like being able to take care of myself and provide for myself. And would it be nice, you know what I mean, if I did meet a man and trust him enough in a situation like that? Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool for anybody, I suppose. But like, I just don't see myself whole ass relying on somebody else to provide financially. And it's like, I can understand situations too where it's like if you have somebody that is like a parent and they're a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom and it's 50-50 in that regard, that makes fucking sense, because like one person is literally out working and the other person is at home raising a fucking child. Like that, in that regard, as far as somebody providing for the other or providing financially, that makes sense, because to me that's 50-50. To me that's equal work. And I feel like I wouldn't mind either. Like I wouldn't have an issue being the one working if my partner were to stay home and take care of the kids, just because I'm not a big fan of like public childcare and daycares and shit and letting other people, like I barely let people watch Daphne. Like I'm very particular about who I let watch Daphne. And Daphne's my dog, if you don't know. So it's like, for me, I would rather have somebody that's like there, whether it's me or my partner, it doesn't matter. And I think that's the whole issue with relationships too, is like, because what is it that y'all are looking for? I'm so confused, because for me, relationships have always been finding somebody that brings, you know, that adds a little extra razzle dazzle to your life and that makes you feel good and that you're physically attracted to. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? They're like an all-star individual in your life. But I feel like nobody's really dating for love. Nobody's really dating to like be with somebody, because my priority in a relationship, as far as looking after whoever it is that I'm dating, like it needs to be like, you know, a mutual thing where it's like, I'm out for your best interests, point blank, bottom line. I don't hate you, because I feel like I see that all the time too, where there's these women that post, and it has to be like hate, what is it, rage baiting. I see men and women posting and it'll be men who very obviously don't like their girlfriend, which I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? And then women that are in these situations with men that aren't too great, and then they post about it and then expect people not to be like, girl, you need to get out of there. And it's so sad, some of them that I've seen, because I'm like, girl, what are you gonna do? There's this one, and maybe I'll just post a clip, but it's bad out here in hetero land, I have to say. But like I said, it's just a matter of communication and personal preference. And I think it's good to remember, if you're in a relationship, and regardless if it's actually happening or not, and you feel that the person that you are with is not out for your best interest, you need to leave that relationship. And I think like with communication and like knowing and understanding that the person that you're with isn't there to hurt you, and in the instance that it is, or any instance where you feel that, whether, like I said, if it's real or not, you need to leave. Because one, you could be destroying a perfectly good relationship. Sometimes it's better to put things on the back burner than to damage it any further, or you're dealing with somebody who is not out for your best interest. Either way, it sounds like you need to heal, go back to the drawing board and kind of figure that out and kind of say, okay, what was this person's action showing me? What were their words showing me? What make sense of it? Because I do understand there are people that are narcissistic. There are people that make relationships very confusing, where they could be hot one minute, cold the next minute, and it could go either way, honestly. But I do think, like, even so, like, the more that you date and you interact with people, like literally just human interaction in general, I feel like you'll learn a lot about yourself, learn a lot about what your boundaries are, and learn what certain things look like. Like, I feel like I know what certain things look like in a relationship now, to where I'm very quick, where I'm like, okay, like this has happened one too many times. We've discussed it, we've talked about it, but it keeps happening. So it's like, I gotta leave, because I think that is the issue too that I see with some people. And I think it's like a fear of being alone, where they want to try to give the person the benefit of the doubt, which is completely understandable, but then end up married with kids, end up with like serious ties, living together, like where it makes it a lot more difficult to separate. And I think it's like, as soon as you clock something, you know, and you feel that it's imminent to the relationship, it's time to leave. Otherwise you could end up in a position where you're stuck. You can't keep it's such a slippery slope, because you can't overlook everything, but you also can't expect your partner to be perfect. And I think that's why I typically stay in certain relationships for an extended amount of time. And even with friendships, like if somebody's done something and there's a wiggle room where I'm like, okay, that could be explained away, like they could have meant it this way, or it could have been like this, then I stick around. I keep my guard up. You know, I'm not telling you to get run over, and I'm not telling you to let anybody disrespect you or anything. Keep your heart 3 stacks, but also keep in mind that people aren't perfect and not everybody is out to get your ass. yeah, I mean, hopefully everybody finds some healing soon and everybody finds some peace, and we can all learn how to be better to each other and learn how to communicate better, because this ain't it. This is not the lick in the slightest, but I have faith. It'll be okay. Hopefully it doesn't just turn into more issues. That's all that I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, a wonderful morning, evening, weekend, weekday. And that's it. Oh, you're so sweet. She was not being sweet earlier. She was being a fucking menace. I had to record this 10 times over. But I'm digressing. Okay, have a great day. Bye.